why young men aren't growing up.
So I just turned 20. I feel more like I'm 16. I also look more like I'm 16, but that's probably just genetic. The point is, mentally, I'm like a 16-year-old. And that's what I said in court, but the jury really wasn't happy.
Oh, boy.
And I got charged with something about statutory.
Okay, wait, is this actually...
You could point to the rate of single men and lonely men with no brotherhood. This is something I talk about a lot in other videos, so I'm not going to go into depth in the statistics, but having human relationships is a big part of growing up. Learning how to grow and maintain connections and provide value. This is true for platonic relationships, but it's also true for romantic as well. It's a part of maturing, but a lot of men don't even get their foot in the door now.
Okay, there's a lot here, and we're kind of speaking towards that broader angst with social alienation that I feel is like a very warranted and valid concern that people have. So people are saying like, oh, this guy's 20, who cares? Well, that's not true. A 20-year-old is an adult. A 20-year-old is often in the workforce now, like they're not going to college, or they just got like an associate's degree. And, you know, they can feel despair about the way things are going. And I think that I think there's a lot of stuff that people can do to make their lives better in this way. But I do agree that it's like, why are we not addressing the pedo shit at the beginning of the video? Because it was a stupid joke. It wasn't actually meaningful to the content of the video, and I don't care. But the, you know, there are ways to improve these things, but I think that it's probabilistic, and I think that most people will run down most of the paths that life makes clearest for them. And the paths that are clearest for most people are, I think, very self-destructive ones. One of the reasons I think that video games and other like indoor hobby activities are really popular with men, more so than they are with women, is because men are a lot less socially acclimated. I think that it's easier to develop that hobby if you just kind of sit at home all day and you don't know what to do with yourself. Not to say there's anything wrong with playing video games. I would never even, I would never, you know, grace someone with my time if they were not themselves a gamer. But I do think a lot of people fall into that, or a lot of other hobbies or interests, because they're lonely, and it kind of shapes how their life moves forward. Same with anime. There's a reason why so many anime have like isekai or light novel romance premises that are clearly designed to appeal to bitchless young men. These interests definitely prey on people's loneliness a lot.
Arrested development is also demonstrated by Gen Z's obsession with escapism in films.
Oh, we just talked about this. To be clear, I don't necessarily think this is arrested development. I think this has more to do with social alienation. I don't think that you are... So, our definition for arrested development is going to have to shift a lot, because now that basically everyone from millennial to Gen Z to Gen Alpha is online all the time, a consequence of that is that, like, by the time I'm 80, 80-year-olds are going to be playing, like, Smash Bros. In retirement homes. Video games aren't just some youthful, Zoomer, disengaged, like, nerd thing anymore. They're a larger industry than movies are. If people can watch movies at any age, people are going to be playing video games at any age. It's just a matter of getting acclimated to them when you're young.
And it's cool if you like these sort of things, but the amount of people I see make it damn near their whole personality is crazy.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Also, if you are into games or anime culture, I strongly encourage you to go to conventions, because that is one of the best ways that you can socialize and build bonds with other people when in a relatively nerdy and kind of like, you know, disengaged or alienated hobby. Don't be friends with RWBY fans, though. Stay away from that group. But other fandoms are okay.
Near their whole personality is crazy. And this is because community is dying and culture alongside it.
No, absolutely not. Community is dying, but the examples you've shown here are community. It's just not community you like. Culture is not dying, not even remotely. Culture is as, if not more, rich than it has ever been. It is being contributed to by a wider variety of people than ever before in human history.
Nobody has a real sense of self anymore. When I look around at young people my age, a lot of them are submerged in this escapism, whether it be anime, video games, the hub, weed, and other drugs, usually a combination of most of these things.
I don't know if I agree if the issue is people not having a sense of self. I think people need to have a better sense of community. The self is important to define. You need to understand who you are and what you are. But I think you need to learn to supplement that with engagement with other people, you know? Not like drift off too much into your own bubble. By the hub, he means Pornhub.
It's what they spend most of their time doing, and in a way, it's kind of what they live for. This is also sort of connected to rampant consumerism, which is childish.
I agree.
Being obsessed with fantasy is a childish trait.
Well, no, hold on, wait. Obsession with fantasy isn't consumerism. Obsession with fantasy could just mean that you have a creative mind. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien was obsessed with fantasy. He channeled that obsession and he turned it into the bedrock of like literary and fantasy culture in the West. So there's your culture, you know? I don't think it's childish to be super, super into stuff. You just have to learn how to balance that out and make sure you're still living a fulfilling life. Would you agree with obsession with escapism? Yes, I don't like escapism. I think that you should, whatever you're into, whether it be fantasy or games or anime, I think that it should be part of a rooted, healthy, holistic, and community-oriented attitude towards your life. If you're doing it as a form of escapism, then you need to fix what it is you're trying to escape from. And, you know, like you shouldn't have to escape. It should be a supplement, not escapism. I agree with that. But it's not always escapism. You can even be super into something and not have it be escapism, right? It could just be the thing you're into.
And a lot of these guys who live this sort of lifestyle, they're really smart too. Like they had a lot of potential, but it's just, it's over now.
No. That's okay. That's actually like, that's pretty retarded. No, it's not. What, like a 20-year-old who really likes fantasy, it's over now? Shut up. You're 20. Shut up. This is just whiny doomering, isn't it? Yeah, it's just like, yeah. This, I have no respect for this like mindless doomer aestheticism where you try to elevate people's emotions with this fake, oh, it's over now bullshit. It's not over. This is really just for liking fantasy a lot. Like, if you're obsessed with fantasy as like a concept, you're a really smart guy, but it's over? Really?
I'm 20, but I haven't really lived that much for my age in terms of experience, which, as I talked about earlier, slows down time. Especially
That's true. Having lots of new experiences does make your life feel longer and richer.
when compared to someone like my great-grandfather when he was 20 years old, who, while being technically the same age as me, would have already lived way more and kind of longer. He experienced more growth, more character development.
No. Do not go around thinking that people who grew up in earlier generations had like these super rich, varied, exciting, interesting lives. Historically, most of human experience has been spending your entire life on the same farm and then dying early. Right now, we have access to more potential experiences, more travel, more people to meet, more things to do, more things to see than ever before at any point in any human history for any culture anywhere. If by more experience you mean more suffering, then yes. And the suffering may have caused them to grow up faster in the sense that life was harder and they had less time to have fun. But newsflash, life is not a race to prioritize your degree of personal financial life responsibility over fun you can have past other people. Like, I don't know what that even means or what that would imply. Like, is a person who has an abusive father has to run away when they're 11 and then has to like live on the streets and suck dick to like get enough food to eat? Like, is this person having more growth and character development? And if so, is it enviable? Is this preferable? This seems to me like the myopic whining of a privileged upper middle class white suburbanite who doesn't understand that not having had the privilege to suffer actually is itself a privilege. You know, you have the choice to texture your life with many things. You can do that, but that doesn't mean that you're in a position where you're born less advantaged here than like an older person or whatever.
My parents were dating when they were 19. I've never been in a relationship. They were telling me these stories, and it all just seemed so natural. Like they didn't have to think twice about it, and I felt uncomfortable in comparison because none of these things happened to me.
Like what? They went outside and went to a coffee shop and talked to somebody? You can still do that. It's still legal. You can still do that.
I've gone through all these phases, self-improvement, reading all these books, devising a plan to stop touching my worm and looking at hentai.
Okay, so yeah, so these are problems, okay? So the problem you're having here is that NoFap and masculine self-improvement internet advice are bullshit and don't actually fix anything. God, what kind... Okay, man, I'm gonna, like, fucking libido shame for a second. How, as a 20-year-old, do you get into NoFap, okay? I'm just as horny now as I was when I was 20, and the concept of going NoFap would have me, like, I would make it everyone else's problem. I don't know, how do you even do that? I don't get it. I don't get it. But this is kind of like what you see, right? Because I remember 5 years ago, like right around the time I began this channel, I was like, you have all these like incel Zoomers who are getting into NoFap movements, and here 5 years later is this guy, right? Like the process, it's all the clockwork design of the universe ticks in concordance with my predictions. NoFap won't fix your problems. If you're jerking off so much that it's impeding your life, then that can be an issue. But I think these are issues that are usually solved by finding other things to do, or to like understand why that's your go-to in boredom, right?
Or you live in a tiny apartment where you don't know your neighbors, you come home from work, or you don't work at all, just to cope through fantasy, through escapism, drugs, and technology. You fuck your sex robot, and you take your medicine. You don't have a family.
Okay, go outside and socialize with a human being. It's the simplest thing in the world to do. It's so simple. We've been doing it forever. Please, I'm begging you, stop with this weird...
But you got a lot of products. Say whatever you want. Ignore me at your own peril. But this is no mistake. This was planned for you.
This was planned for you. This wasn't planned. This was an unintended consequence of a huge confluence of economic and social factors that are interacting with each other in ways that are making people more isolated and alienated. A lot of it has to do with like technological development. But like, no, there's no one guy or like group of people at the head of the org that are making people lonelier. That's just not what's happening. Please just go outside and talk to somebody. Please, 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 please.
You still decide your own future. I could stay up in this basement with my gamer chair and computer with the RTX whatever the fuck in the confines of the underground prison, watching seasons pass like days, a child in a man's body, just living to
You are 20.
Farm dopamine from games and the internet, the flesh merging with machine as the world burns. This is the life.
God, oh my God. It's so I'm 14 and this is deep, man. Holy shit. I know this like angst poetry really resonates with young, like self-conscious people. I can only take so much. It's extremely cringe, but like this is what the young people go for. Sorry.
That so many young men like me live, but it ain't gonna happen to daddy.
Also, I like how this is being purely framed as like a man thing, when all of the forces that he's referring to here are like broadly applicable. I don't know how you could have a social phenomena where all of the men are living in their basements or their mom's basement or whatever, but then all the women are succeeding and in relationships, you know? Like, are they all with Chad? Are we doing the hypergamy thing? He did do red pill shit, you know?
But I think this is about to change. Stay tuned and you'll find out, but...
Wait, was he saying he has a baby face? He just looks like a 20-year-old. His self-perception is fucked. Yeah, well, he was literally in the incel movement. This guy's like an ideological drifter. He's unhappy with his life, and he's bouncing between any number of like 67 ideologies that are all explaining how one problem or another is like the real problem and not the other stuff. And it's sad. And I feel bad for him, but this video also has 1.3 million views. So at the moment, I kind of don't feel bad for him because a lot of 1.4. Genuinely scared by the fact this video tackled all the stuff passing through my brain on a daily basis. It's crazy to see a lot of us are in the same situation. Go outside from What If Alt History. You did a great job. The older generations don't understand, but as a 22-year-old, this is so true. Young guys need to look out for each other. Okay, What If Alt History, aka Crack Pipe Guy. Meet him in real life and hang out together, thereby solving each other. He's 22. I know, right? Now that's somebody who doesn't have a baby face. All right, well, that was content.